My name is Timothy Tu. I'm the Economic Development Specialist at DBET. Thank you so much for attending today's webinar on the topic of study abroad by the Chinese student. We do have 4 speakers today, and Gordon Zhang, the Executive Director of the Beijing office, will introduce all to you shortly. If you are looking for more information about the whole webinar series, please go to Invest.Hawaii.Gov and go under the Exporting tab to export more. You can also find our different topics webinar that we have within the HiStep program at the website. Before we start the webinar, I would like to go over some housekeeping items. The webinar will be recorded for the future use and playback. All participants are muted upon entry. If you have any questions for the panelists, we do have a Q&A sessions at the end. You can either push the raise hand button on your screen, and I will give you access to speak and ask questions directly to our panelists during the Q&A sessions. Or you can leave your questions anytime in the Q&A box. So thank you all again for joining us. And now I would like to turn over the program to the Director of the Beijing office, Gordon Zhang. Gordon, please.
Let me see whether. Just hold on, Microphone, yeah. Aloha, everybody. Sorry for I turned on the microphone. Well, my name is Gordon Zhang, and together I am with my colleague Flora Wu, who are working in Beijing, DBET's Beijing office. I believe most of us know us because we go to Hawaii a few times, and you came to China, to Beijing, to Guangdong province a few times. Most of the people in this field know each other well. And so without much introduction about my office, let's focus on introducing our speakers today. And well, the topic today is about education, Chinese students going abroad. And we talk about some issues that of concern to all of us. For example, is Chinese market, the Chinese education going overseas, is still there for Hawaii? And what is the trend for Chinese going abroad in light of the recent changes? And what is the benefits of joint programs, partner schools, and how is online education going in China? And also we will touch upon the subjects of the summer winter camps and training and teaching in China. So we have today have honored, we invited 4 speakers. And actually among the 4, probably some of you know the three of them already. And now let's go one by one. And the first speaker is Mrs. Feng Yunying. She is from the Zhang Foreign Language Education Group. And she is the vice principal of the school. And she's also an educator. She's teaching English herself. And she has a number of awards. But I'm not going into the details, and even for herself and for other speakers, everybody welcome to check out their detailed bio from the DBET's website. Well, a few words about Zhang Foreign Language School. Actually, the school has 4 sections consisting of K to 12 grades. The group has sister school relationships with 200 schools from over 22 countries. And one more thing worth mentioning is that they set up a global K-12 education research association. This is the only one in China as I know. And the association set up in 2014, and it has 127 member schools from 16 countries. And so some of the Hawaii schools they came to attend this meeting in past few years, and they look forward to welcome other schools to come to the conference in the future. And well, let's welcome Mrs. Feng to address us and telling us what they do in Shijiazhuang Foreign Language School and how they cooperate foreign schools and what trend she's looking at. Now, welcome, Mrs. Feng. Thank you.
Hi. So good morning and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. And first, let me briefly introduce my school, Shijiazhuang Foreign Language Education Group. And it is in Shijiazhuang, the capital city of Hebei province, about 400 kilometers away from Beijing to the south. And it was built in 1994 with 12,000 students from ages 3 to 18 and 1,100 staff at the school. And as a language school, besides the compulsory courses in China, we also offer students English, Japanese, Russian, German, French, and Spanish classes. My school has always believed in opening up teaching and has successfully founded the sister schools relationship with 202 schools in 22 countries. While we strengthen the foreign language features, we have gradually formed our own characteristics and advantages in running our school. Today, I mainly want to share with you how internationalization of education promotes the innovation and sustainable development of my school and preparing our students for the world of tomorrow. For our school, the internationalization of education is based on the open running of schools, studying advanced education ideas, curriculum, and teaching methods from developed countries in the world, considering the education of our country and promoting the education reform so as to create an education system with Chinese ideals. And the following 4 parts are how internationalization of education promotes the innovation and sustainable development of our school and helping us prepare our students for the world of tomorrow. And since 1996, we began our invite and visitor policy to make friends with schools abroad. As I have mentioned, we have 222 sister schools around the world, and we have formed our own sister school communication programs. Every summer and winter holidays, we organize exchange programs. And during the program, we pair up students from both schools, and they go to class with their buddy, stay at their buddy's house, and immerse themselves in a foreign environment to experience different cultures and to improve their communication abilities. There are also performances where students present themselves and their country's culture by singing songs, reading poems, playing musical instruments, drawing, and so on. There are also themed activities or projects for students to explore, such as an environmental investigation or education survey. And we hope they can discover differences and problems and come up with solutions. And as for teachers, we have demo classes or teaching seminars to share ideas on school teaching, after-school activities, and student management. Because of the pandemic, we held some online communications in the year 2020. And to promote the reformation and the development of K-12 education, in 2014, upon the 20th anniversary of our school, the Global K-12 Education Research Association was founded, which includes 127 members from 16 countries, with our school as a leader and a host. So far, we have had 6 annual meetings themed with innovative intellectual cultivation, reading and science literacy, citizenship, arts education, health education, and student leadership. And thanks to the communication with countries from around the world, we have a chance to compare different cultures and different education methods so that we can then come up with some new ideas on education. So first, we established the concept responsible for the education of the students' whole life. Enrollment rate shouldn't be the only standard to assess a school's performance. Every student should be developed morally, intellectually, physically, aesthetically, and diligently in all-round way. Then we carried out the 4 independence and 4 links education model and applied it to classroom teaching, moral education, campus activities, family education, and social practice. And in this way, we hope students can develop their ability by independent learning, independent development, independent education, and independent management. And we hope to change the teachers' teaching style and students' learning style. So the students can change from a passive to active in the process of learning and growing. And thirdly, we carried out 40 school-based courses to enable the students to develop all around. The school-based courses include music, arts, PE, themed moral education, and etc. And besides these, we also came up with community activities, home education practice to provide the students more opportunities to learn. And as for high school graduates, we provided them 3 ways to go to university. One is the Gaokao, the Chinese entrance examination for university. And one is through language recommendation. And our school is one of the 16 foreign language schools in China which have this privilege. And the last one is studying abroad. And we mainly have 2 kinds of cooperations for students learning abroad. Number 1 is cooperations with universities. So far, we have conducted several Green Pass programs with Drake and York University in the US, University of London, Toronto University, the University of New South Wales, and Asia Pacific University. These universities, come to our school, and they gave students a written test and an interview, and then decide whether the students are admitted or not, allowing the students to prove themselves without taking the TOEFL, SAT, or IELTS tests. Number 2 is cooperations with the high schools. We have programs like 1+2, 2+1, 2+2, which means students study in our high school for 1 or 2 years, then go to high schools in the other countries to study further for 1 or 2 years before they take the college entrance examination abroad. And to prepare students for these programs, we encourage them to take part in many international activities. And since 2013, every year 5 to 10 students in our school are invited to take part in the World Food Organization Youth Forum in Des Moines, Iowa. And their theses on agriculture and their speeches have shown their concern for many of the world issues. And our students also have taken part in Global Youth Camp, Model United Nations, and so on, to learn from young people around the world. And as the window of Hebei Province Foreign Communications, our school is visited by people around the world, and our students get chances to know different cultures, and their interest to explore the world are aroused. Thanks to the international communications and education reformation, we have made great contributions to K-12 education and was given 12 national awards, such as National Civilized Work Unit, National Advanced Unit for Foreign Experts, and the National Advanced Unit for Poverty Alleviation, and etc. And as a leading school now, we shared our education ideas and gave a big help to students in the rural areas. In the year 2014, we joined the Balanced Education Program in China, and 6 primary schools and 6 middle schools from the mountainous areas joined us. And in order to provide the students with qualified education and colorful courses, we worked with China Mobile and provided the students with online learning, Zhang Foreign Language Education Group program. So when COVID-19 broke out last year, we began to use the online learning program with our own students in the city. And in this program, we take each class as a unit, and the head teacher sets up an online class and invites all the students and the teachers in, and the teachers visit different classes and give students lessons according to the teaching schedule by the school, just as they would at school. And while the teachers gave lessons, they can see the students' expressions and behavior, and students can ask questions, and the teachers can explain and helps them solve the problems immediately. So the face-to-face interactive class benefited both the teachers and the students and guaranteed a continuation of a teaching quality. And of course, in order to create a learning environment, our teachers also have some requirements. And we are required to choose a quiet, bright, tidy space while giving lessons. And the teachers also needed to dress somewhat formally and speak slower as well as clearly to address the students while learning. As for teaching materials, and we decided to slow down our progress and pay more attention to basic knowledge and basic skills. And in keeping with classroom management, and the teachers are asked to interact more and with students, by asking questions, by praising the good behavior, and by showing excellent homework, etc. And as for students, they are required to wear school uniform, sit well when the bell rings, and their hands and shoulders should be seen by the camera. And students need also participate and interact with the teachers and the classmates, and their interactions are evaluated by the teachers. And also, we had many activities to fulfill students' daily life. And classroom meetings and the lectures are themed with pandemic protection, life education, and responsibilities, etc. And activities such as singing, painting, cooking, etc. to ensure the students live a healthy and a colorful life, even being limited to their houses. And because of the pandemic, we encountered many challenges, especially for international education. But the challenges also means opportunities. As the pandemic goes down, and the Chinese students hope the universities abroad can cooperate with universities in China and give the students a chance to attend classes in Chinese university and acknowledge their achievements, and also fulfill the online learning with more activities besides lectures given by professors, and also work out a more considerate timetable, for Chinese students. As you know, because of the time differences, it's a big challenge for Chinese students and families to get used to studying at night and sleeping during the daytime. So, dear friends and ladies and gentlemen, just as President Xi has said during the Davos Forum 4 days ago, We remain convinced that the winter cannot stop the arrival of spring, and the darkness can never shroud the light at dawn. There's no doubt that humanity will prevail over the virus and emerge even stronger from this disaster. So we, Hsia Foreign Languages Education Group, are always here welcoming you to join us in preparing the students for the world of tomorrow. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Feng. And many of our audience may know that Hsia Foreign Language Group is a very big school, and actually it's a private school. And many of their graduates go abroad. And actually, as a matter of fact, each year since 2016, and a few hundred of their students did come to Hawaii for short-term programs, for summer vacations, for summer programs, for winter camps, summer camps, especially for winter camps, because in winter, China and a lot of countries are cold, and Hawaii is an ideal place for Chinese students. And so we have been, the DBED Beijing office have been working with Hsia Foreign Language School over years to promote, Hawaii. And we actually try to help them to set up a partner school with one of Hawaii schools, but up to now, this goal is still has to be reached. But anyways, this is another opportunity. We introduce Hsia Foreign Language School, and we hope that some of our schools in Hawaii do have a chance to come to China and to visit their school. All right, let's move on to the next speaker. Is Nancy Liu. Nancy is from a company. Well, her let me see. Is that? Nancy is the co-founder of Zhang. Nancy Friends. Well, am I right, Flora? The next speaker is she's from the Zhang Nancy Friends International Education Group, and Nancy was trained in foreign countries. She was trained in the Institute Villa Parifu, SA. And she is also an author of 2 books regarding American boarding schools. One's American boarding school and American boarding school essay writing. So she is she started as a coaching students to go abroad. Now she branded her company as Zhang Nancy Friends, and as a premier provider of international education solutions. The company offers consulting services in education planning, application, standardized test preparation, and proprietary skill-oriented curriculum, and independent advisory. And if you see her detailed bio from the DBED website, you can also see that many of their students go to top American universities. And so she will talk to us about, what they do, and because her organization herself is cooperating with Iolani School, and she has been sending students to Iolani, so she knows Hawaii pretty well and Hawaii education as a general. And she will tell us, how she perceives the opportunities that Hawaii has to attract the Chinese students, and how her organization is working with other universities, with other countries, and what are the best good practices that she thinks which is helpful to attract students. Now, without much introduction, let's welcome Nancy, please.
Thank you, Gordon. Hello, everyone. My name is Nancy. I'm so happy to be here, have this opportunity to, have this conversation with everyone. And today I'm gonna to share the topic regarding for the, okay, let me check. Is this right for my point? That everyone can see it?
It seems it's
Not
opening. Yeah, it's there.
Okay, it's work. Okay, thank you. And the first one. Okay, it's work, right? Okay. Today I'm going to share about the topic about the current situation, how the Chinese middle school students studying abroad. And firstly, I'm really appreciate that Gordon gave me the introduction, and I am Nancy, and I am the co-founder for the Zhang Nancy Friends Educational Group, and I am the IECA professional member. And it's very lucky that in the past, I already worked as a consultant, educational consultant for 13 years. And it's very lucky that in the past 13 years, I visited more than 200 private schools in the United States and working with more than 1,600 students to help them looking the applying for the American boarding school, private schools, and it's fun. And our company, Zhang Nancy Friends, we are a consultant company. We offer the main service we offer is the consultant service for the Chinese family who are looking forward to, setting their kids study abroad and prepare for their application. It's very honored that currently Zhang Nancy Friends each top private school currently 25% to 75% students from China are referred by the Zhang Nancy Friends. It's very lucky for us. And firstly, I would like to share about the current situation about the Chinese middle school students study abroad, how the situation is. The middle school students have become the third largest group for the Chinese students study abroad. The number one is graduate students, and the second is undergraduate students. So the middle school students is the third biggest group. And I say the number is, the report is, there for the Chinese students who study abroad, the middle school students accounted for 35%. So it's a big part. Actually, it's a small market, but it's a big part. And when the young age students consider about to study abroad, the country the first to come up in their mind is the United States, Canada, United Kingdom, and other the European countries like Switzerland, Switzerland is a new choice for them. And when we're talking about the Chinese family who said their kids study abroad, the first question is what kind of Chinese families they said their kids study abroad? Okay, give me a minute. Let me share. First thing is most Chinese families, they said, especially for the middle school students, if their family said the kids study abroad, they choose private school mostly. So the family's income is the big thing for them. So the family need to have the ability to afford the tuition, to pay the tuition fees, the class fees for the students. So the income is a big problems for them. High income families is the first part. And the second thing is the parents are mostly global business executives or the private incubators, or the lawyers, the doctors, are the main party for the Chinese families who said their kids study abroad. And depends on my working experience. The first tier cities are the main part for the families who send their kids to study abroad at a very young age. But now I can feeling it's changed a little bit. For our company, we service a lot families from the different part of China, like from Chengdu, from Inner Mongolia, from Shanxi province. So it's changed a little bit, but the first tier cities are still the main part. When the families consider about, make the choice to send their kids to study abroad, what is the factors the family thinking about? Firstly, boarding school are preferred over day schools. I know in the United States, day school are more than have the bigger numbers than the boarding school. But for the Chinese family, they prefer boarding school because the family, mostly the parents cannot go together with the students, and they are not that familiar about the American culture. So they think the boarding school is much more easy for them. It's the school provides the whole package for the students, including the academics, the activities, and yeah, so it's more easy for the family. That is why boarding school are more popular than day school currently for the Chinese parents. And depends on the Chinese family. The familiar about the United States, the Eastern over Western and the Western over Middle. It's very interesting, but the family thinking a very big names university like the Harvard, like Yale, Princeton, they all located in the Eastern. That is why the Chinese family is thinking, okay, Eastern is the hometown for the education, but the Western is more like the big companies, but not the big schools. That is why Eastern over Western, and the Western over Middle is all because I think there are not that big cities in the middle. And so it's not that familiar for the most Chinese families. And Hawaii is a new choice for Chinese families. Some of them start to consider about Hawaii. I will talk this later. Ranking is the most important thing. I think the schools, sometimes when I talk about the ranking for the different schools, the schools is so, they feel so, complex. What is the ranking is, because we all know that there is no the official ranking for the private school, the schools in the United States. But for Chinese parents, they use the Fighting School and the Niche. These are the main websites the Chinese families they use to do the research about the private about the schools in the United States. Fighting School actually is a Chinese website. All the information offered on the website is in Chinese, and it's they have the brief introduction about the different school, and the users can do their accomplishment comments, make their comments on the website. So it's very easy for the Chinese parents, the Chinese family to do some research about the school which they are interested. And the Fighting School provide a ranking about the different schools. It's including 200 schools in the United States, 200 boarding schools in the United States. And the Niche is it's American website, and it's provides the information in English, but some Chinese families, they use this website. Mm-hmm. If the students, they apply for a private school in the United States, they need to do 4 parts. The first thing is application form. It's, on the school's website or the SSAT application system. And the second thing is interview. I know a lot of school, they treat interview so important because they think this is a best way to know about the students personally. And the school report is an important thing. And the test is, I know most school required the test score, but the Chinese family depends on the culture. The parents, they treat test so important. So test is it's a big part for the students' application. I know some Chinese students, when they make the decision to apply the school in the United States, they will spend at least half a year to prepare for the test. The test is, especially for the TOEFL and the SSAT. And for the most popular schools in the East Coast and the West Coast, we take the SSAT as an example, and the application is so competitive. If a Chinese students from mainland China, they want to get into a very top tier school in the United States, the SSAT score need to, approach like 2,100, 2,250. It's like the 90%, 99%. So it's the application is very, very competitive now. And for the TOEFL school, we all know that the universities in the state, they require the candidates submit like 90 score. But for the high school application, currently we know a lot of students, they have their TOEFL score 100, 105, 110. It's very normal for the Chinese applicants when they prepare for the American schools application. And so schools from Hawaii is a new choice for the Chinese family. When the family consider about the school from Hawaii, location is the first thing. They are curious about the location. Is that from the mainland American, it's how about the culture there is, and how about the academic rigor, and especially the parents are curious about the benefits for the college application. That is why, because we all know that universities in the United States, they value the diversity. So the parents will thinking that Hawaii is, that is the benefit for their college application. And I will take Yolani School as an example because it's very lucky that in the past 5 years, we worked together with Yolani, but not the official work together. And when I still remembered that in 2017, it's the first year the Yolani School come to China. The school opened their dorm and opened their boarding program at that year. And the headmaster and the admission officer, they decided to recruit international students to fill up their dormitory. And they come to China, do the reception here. And in the past 5 years, Yolani School is very, very active here. I know their admission officer who take the responsibility for the international students application team. She is working very hard. I know she spent at least half a year here in China, she visited different schools, different agents to interview students, share the information, introduce schools. So she's working very hard, and we can say it's worked. And in the past 5 years, I can feel in the students, the candidates who apply for the Yolani School, their ability is, grow up. The more and more great students, they start to pay attention for the Yolani School, and they start to consider Yolani School on their school list. And now I know in the past 5 years, Yolani School accepted like around 100 students from China to, getting their boarding program. For the Yolani School, we can, say Yolani School, why Yolani School is, work as the successful example for the, Chinese students recruiting. It's firstly, they opened their boarding program because for the Chinese parents, boarding is a huge important thing. And they hired the faculty who focused for the international students application because the person need to get involved in the, Chinese market and make the school know about the Chinese family. And they come to China frequently to interview students, meet with students. They're working together with a consultants company, like I know Yolani work together with Zhang Nancy friends, and they're taking good care of the students, and all the students will spread the words. So if you go to the Fighting School website, you can see that the comments about the Yolani school, every parents, they speak good words for Yolani, so it's huge. Okay, this is all the information I would like to share with you, with friends, and looking forward to more good Hawaii schools coming to China. And we hope that Zhang Nancy friends will be your friends. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Nancy. That's wonderful. And well, I know that a lot of the Hawaii schools they are not well, policy-wise, they are not allowed to work with a intermediary or a consultancy company. But there are ways to work with a company or work with an individual. And well, I know one or two Hawaii schools who have been successful recruiting Chinese students. But Yolani is something new. Yolani, traditionally they do not, recruit a lot of Chinese students. But over the last 5-6 years, and they have been working on it. And some other schools have been working on this too. But I think the experience of Yolani is worth looking at. Because they started from scratch too, and if Yolani can, or if ACC can, why cannot other schools recruit more Chinese students? Anyways, the market is still there, and anyways, well, this is a example or case study about how a school can get their ideal result from promoting in China. And next, well, we'll invite Dr. Joyce. Let me see her, Joyce Jia. Well, I think a lot of our audience know Dr. Jia already. And if you don't, well, you will soon anyways. Dr. Jia, she is a warm and adamant promoter of Hawaii education. The reasons are many, but I just want to pick two. She got her PhD of education from UH Manoa, and that's important. And the more important to herself, her son was educated in Hawaii, and he graduated from Hawaii High School, and he was enrolled in Harvard University, and she's so proud of her son, and so she is proud of Hawaii education. So she has been working, well, with Hawaii education and for Hawaii education. And she wrote books, and which is well received among Chinese audience. And about Hawaii education, she has done hundreds, thousands of lectures and private meetings to say good words about Hawaii education. And without much, time I spend on this, well, let's invite Joyce to speak to us. Dr. Jia, please.
Aloha, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks, Gordon, for your great words on me. And it's my great honor to be invited as one of the panelists to do the presentation here. So my presentation is about how to recruit Chinese students to attend the University of Hawaii. So actually, as Gordon mentioned earlier, I worked as a recruiter for the UH Maloa for 2 years. So my presentation will be based on my work experience as a recruiter for UH Maloa. So I just want to show you a survey on Chinese parents. So actually, I conducted this survey when I started work as a recruiter for the UH Maloa. So basically, I'm interested in investigating how Chinese parents, what kind of factors that influence Chinese parents to choose the study abroad. So what kind of factors influence their decision on their children's decision on which university they're gonna choose. So the first factor is safety. The second is education opportunity. The third is diverse campus. The fourth is urban culture. The fifth is academic development. The sixth is ranking of the college. Number 7 is natural environment and the weather. Number 8 is living condition and investment. So after I got the survey result, I was so excited because the result actually perfect match with the institution I worked with, UH Maloa and the state of Hawaii. So actually, Hawaii is a place where the East meets the West. So actually, I got the data when I started the job. So Hawaii is the #1 healthiest state in the US and the #1 happiest state in the US. And the #1 best US city to live in, and number 17 in the world. And number 3 safest city like Honolulu in US. And also the top grade mark for air quality in US. So although the data is, I got the data in 2018, but I think the updated data is very similar. So it's Hawaii, it's a paradise, it's a beautiful land in the Pacific Ocean. So Hawaii is part of US, but different from mainland US. So Hawaii is a place that really attracts Chinese students and their parents. Okay, so based on this, I will propose the following 7 strategies for the University of Hawaii system. The strategy 1 is 1 for 10 China recruitment. So 1 for 10, the meaning is suggesting 1 office for 10 campuses. So when I work as a recruiter, I joined the Education USA and to travel across the country. And when I introduced UH Maloa, and we also have some other campuses to come. So the the Chinese parents and the students are kind of confused. So are you University of Hawaii? So I got several University of Hawaii. So which is true? They ask this question. So that's why I proposed the 1 office for 10 campuses. So we can actually promote the University of Hawaii system rather than individual campus. So 1 for 10, so we can better promote the University of Hawaii system. So this is the first strategy I proposed, the 1 office for 10 campuses. And then we can introduce the whole system to our potential students and let them to choose the different campuses. We can carefully introduce, in detail, introduce the different campuses and let the parents and students to choose. So this is the strategy 1. And the second one is multiple paths to UH. Because the target or the potential students for the system or University of Hawaii are usually from the smaller cities where the TOEFL, IELTS, SAT or ACT are not available. So that's why I suggest we consider like Gaokao scores and even Huikao scores, or even high school GPA or high school academic standing. You know, for Chinese Gaokao, usually students will not get their Gaokao score until like late of June, I mean. So maybe for those who want to come to UH to study, like in the 4th semester, so the Gaokao test score is too late for the admission of the 4th semester. So that's why I'm thinking the high school graduation examination is called, which is called a Huikao score, we can consider. The Huikao usually occurred in the junior high, so meaning the 2nd year of their high school. So we can consider Huikao scores along with their high school GPA or high school academic standing. Actually, in my case, I came to study for my master's in education when I was even at my 35 years old. So I want to say for 18 years older, so it's not that difficult for them to improve, I mean, their English language proficiencies. Also, the UH is famous for her like English language program. So, I mean, even we do not have the students like a TOEFL, SAT, or ACT scores, we can consider the Huikao or even their high school GPA or high school like academic standing. Okay, let's come to strategy 3. One-stop admission service, that is how promote this strategy. So one-stop in Chinese meaning the 一条龙 service, means one-stop service. So based on my experience, for example, in my case, we have like over 30 students to apply for UH Moloa. However, finally we got 10 from them to really enroll in our school in the University of Hawaii and Moloa. So what is the reason? So I think the one-stop admission service is very important. So one-stop include application, visa application, campus housing application, and faculty-student connection. So we provide students with academic advisor. And number 5 is airport pickup, and the number 6 is adaptation. So meaning we arrange the long academic advisor to particular students. So help them to really adapt their life in the state of Hawaii. So if we can provide Chinese students with one-stop admission service, I think we can welcome more students to study in the state of Hawaii. And the 4th strategy is provide our Chinese international students with like more scholarship. For example, currently UH Moloa really provide the Chinese students with the following scholarships. I also promote other university or colleges should also provide with international students more like scholarships. And strategy number 5, Aloha Campus. So compared to US education with Chinese higher education, so in US, general education is provided for the undergraduate students. So I conclude the general education as making a living and make a life, which is very great. So when I promote the UH Moloa, I said, okay, in Moloa, so your children will get the general education. So, and then I explain what general education is about. So it's different from the Chinese higher education. So I think we should provide our students with better general education. The second is like students decide their concentration and the majors. This is also the point that attract the Chinese students. You know, because Chinese higher education institution, it's not easy for students to change their concentration or majors, but in the USA, students can easily change their concentration and majors. And the third is a diverse faculty and students. So diverse experience is really important for college students. And number 4 is a cooperative education. Co-op experience is very important for international students because many of them really want to get the cooperative education experience. And the last one is international student support system. So for international students from China, they need more like a student support system in their study, like a tutoring, or like other kind of international support system. And strategy number 6 is colorful life in Hawaii. As for international office, I suggest that we can provide our international students more colorful life in Hawaii, like hiking, surfing, and all kind of activities to provide them with colorful life in Hawaii and a better, Hawaii experience. And the strategy 7. So how to introduce Hawaii? So the first one is from mouth to mouth. From mouth to mouth. The words are powerful. So I suggest that the current students and the visiting scholars from China in Hawaii, we can group these students like Chinese students and connect Chinese students with the office in Beijing. And we can promote the UH system with the help of the current students and visiting scholars in China. The second is like a UH alumni in China. So I suggest the UH system should provide like a support national UH alumni association and plus like a provincial UH alumni association. This group of UH Moloa, UH alumni in China can really help to promote UH in China. So and also an annual UH alumni conference should be gathered, should be organized to enhance the Ohana connection. And also recruitment season. So Beijing office can go to schools with the support of UH students and alumni and ask the alumni and UH students to share their Hawaii and UH experience to potential UH students and others. And also the last one is introduce Hawaii from online media to books. For example, the debate office in Beijing, Gordon and Flora, they actually have the online media like WeChat media, Love Hawaii. This is a very important media to introduce Hawaii as a whole. And also, in 2020, I published a book with the support of the Writers Publishing House in Beijing. Enjoy Your Children While They Are on Your Side. It's liked and most read by the Chinese parents and the teachers. And another book is called My Hawaii. It's a place where East meets West. It's written by the Du Baiyu, who is the Xinhua news agency journalist. So she actually had a wonderful year staying in Hawaii. And so all these kind of online media and books helped to promote Hawaii. So in my case, for my book, a lot of parents ask me about Hawaii. And most of them said, oh, I want to bring my children to Hawaii and to study in Hawaii or high school or University of Hawaii. So I mean, from media and to books, we can spread the good words about Hawaii. Yeah, so that's all about my presentation. So that's why I promote 7 strategies how to attract the Chinese students to study in the University of Hawaii. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jia. And Madam Feng talked about cooperation between schools. Nancy talks about middle school, secondary education and cooperation and sending students to China. And Dr. Jia talked about recruitment for universities. And they speak from different they cover different spectrum of education from middle school to university level, and from especially from Nancy's and Dr. Jia's presentation, 2 things left me with a very deep impression is that we need a kind of a one-stop solution, one-stop service. I think, well, based on my understanding of the services we provide to Chinese students, we need this kind. We need to strengthen in this area. You just approach to one person, one place, and you get things done. And especially when we talk about the younger students, like in their teens, they need such friends or people who they are familiar with, and they don't have to each time to approach to a stranger. And this is very important. And after the presentations, we have Q&A, but before that, let's invite Dr. Amos Hsia. And I think many people know Dr. Hsia already. He came to Hawaii with us in 2017 or 2016. And Dr. Hsia is I should say, just to say a few words, and he's a learner and educator. And Dr. Hsia is a scientist, and he's very, he wants to be precise and meticulous about, how things are told. But for his long bio, I don't cover that. You can go to, if you are interested, you go to the DBED website to see the full version of it. I just want to say 2 or 3 things. He was born and brought up in Taiwan, and he got his Bachelor of Science in Taiwan, and in the following years, he studied, he learned, and that's why I said he's an learner and educator. He got 3 more master degrees, 1 PhD degree. Well, they are all in science subjects like science of the science of horticulture, the science of plants and biology, and even his PhD degrees in science of computer science. And he learned in Taiwan, in Virginia Tech, Polytech, and Virginia State University and California State University at Northridge. And he worked for USDA for a number of years, and also as CEO and chairman of private companies for 12 years. And then he made an abrupt change to be an educator, and he chose to go into China, to southern China, to be a master and to be a lecturer and to be an educator in Chinese schools. And he himself taught computer science and maths in secondary schools. And he has, understanding in education, and he knows, both American and Chinese education systems. And he's also sends students to foreign schools and countries. Now let's welcome Dr. Amos Hsia to give us a presentation about, he made presentations before to Hawaii schools, but in this a few years, he came up with other understanding and thinking. Let's welcome to him to share with us. Dr. Hsia, please.
Okay, thanks for your good words, Gordon, and glad to work with you. Aloha and warmest regards to all my friends of the great state of Hawaii. I miss Hawaii so much, but this pandemic is really not doing my travel plans any favor. I'm hoping for the coming summer will relinquish some of my travel schedule and freedom to be able to visit Hawaii again. Because of your office in Beijing, I've been somewhat involved with the discussion topic that I'm going to be talking about today in the past about 5, maybe 6 years now. I have always held this topic to my heart dearly, so I really appreciate that you indulge me this opportunity to say a few words about my thoughts. But before I start with my thoughts following all the previous panelists of speaking on this topic, I have to bring up a little bit things that I think you need to consider. I may be biased. I was brought up, as Gordon mentioned, I was brought up in Taiwan, but I spent most of my cognitive life in the US. I only stayed in Taiwan for 28 years, where I'm currently at in a quarantine hotel right now to go back for Chinese New Year. I spent 30 good years in US. So I came back to China for one purpose, because I care about Chinese students and their education in US and why they're going abroad and spending so much of their time and effort of the family to study overseas. So please listen to some of my background speech about where I came from before you get my biased thoughts too. I came back in 2012 to China, and it was still a very educational experience for my stay in China since that time. Though I do consider myself a Chinese American, but being that my root was really not in mainland China, so I can only speak from my personal experience, not really a very good representation of the general mainland Chinese population. Also, I only spent 2 years in the first tier city on the East Coast in Shanghai. And then I spent 5 years in yet another first tier city, Guangzhou, in the South. But now I am in a very small third tier city in Incheon, which is in the great out west of China, for almost a year now. I've experienced some very diverse and very complex Chinese population. And I'm going through all these drawing histories of mine for a very simple reason. There will not be any single solution for the topic that I'm going to talk about today. And also, I want to emphasize strongly that you are listening to a not very representing or typical Chinese person, although I will try to be as objective as possible. I'm trying to do that, but still cannot really wash out all my biased thinking. And just because you're listening to a English speaking of me, though my Chinese communication skill is still pretty good, please still do consider these factors in. Also, as Gordon mentioned, I'm mainly focused on the population that is approaching or getting into the higher education. I'm a researcher, a scientist, so my ideal of education is not just knowledge delivery and not just getting to know things, but more of a development of new knowledge approach. The other part of it is I'm also a deep believer of social value in education. So I may be biased through my thoughts and opinion. Next, please. Here are some of my thoughts and observations on recruiting Chinese students to study in Hawaii. Dr. Jia has mentioned a lot of ideas and ideals, but I think recruiting students should be viewed as a marketing a service rather than a product. I was really mistaken about this thing for quite a while too. We're trying to fit a product for the Chinese students. That is not true if you compare that product. Education is not a product, but a service. I was horribly wrong for a long time too. I have discussed with some Hawaiian and US educators under the product concept, trying to adapt to what the Chinese students need. Under this product concept, we're compelled to compete and compare with the other products. Thus, we step into that ranking realm, even though Dr. Jia put it in the 6th item, but I think in all the Chinese parents' mind, it's not that. It's the most important factor that they're considering. The product will only be good to a consumer who can see the value or the dollar sign of it. But this view is going to be very personal, very individual, and very regional, and quite fragile because Chinese is changing very fast. Chinese society is changing very fast. On top of that, as an educator, we always think that the services that we offer are somewhat holy or divine. So that is definitely not in the Chinese students' mind. We need to seriously consider why they want to go overseas to study, especially for the secondary and post-secondary or higher education population. There is a value associated with it. The main concern that they have is their future financial well-being. And many of the students will be considering that along with their parents. So once we step into that debating ring of a product, we're going to lose the battle already. And the view of this value is so diverse that we simply will not win this battle easily, and you're going back to that ranking thing. And I'm also not going to talk about a design for you approach. I think we should consider a what you can do with what we can offer concept. Chinese students are very different from American students. They're not very used to the idea of freedom of thoughts. So as you can see in Dr. Jia's picture, their decision to go abroad is purely based on a very simple concept. It's not based on their own decision and thinking. They're not very used to the idea of freedom of thoughts and freedom decision making. So they will be influenced by the whole society, by the people around them, and by the information that's available on the social media. With that said, they don't really know what they really want. So the fitting process is usually determined by all the surrounding people around them, like their parents, even grandparents. I have sent one student to Hawaii, and the only reason why he went was actually because of his grandma. Okay, and it's nothing to do with him. And he's still in Hawaii right now and doing pretty well, according to him. And believe it or not, his grandma moved in with him. Okay, we will have to learn to lose some of our focus if we want to recruit well for the Hawaiian universities I'm mainly talking about. We need to prove it's worthwhile for them through all their surroundings. So I'm very interested in and very concerned about this one group policy or one group idea. The one group is not going to be just the universities or the schools. We need the travel bureau, we need everybody involved too. So it's not going to be a single item one by one. We need to promote a Hawaiian image, like Dr. Jia is saying, and that is very, very important. The other part thoughts is this education must be usable and applicable to the students. The single purpose of the Chinese education is the financial well-being in the future. All their parents and all the students are concerned about is their financial, especially by the time they get into secondary or post-secondary education. The most important thing is the financial well-being for them. So this is probably going, this statement is probably going to put me into the high-risk group of being attacked or jumped on. There is nothing wrong with that thought though, because this is important. And nobody in the right mind would tell you that financial well-being should not be an important goal of life. It's actually to many people, this is the only goal of their life. So we're back to square one, ranking. The employers believe in that. The society stands behind that, so that it is. We need to show that education in Hawaii, we need to get, is in fact, can be used, can be applicable to the financial well-being of anybody's future, and there's more to that, or else we're going to get stuck with this fight or debate about ranking and about all the efforts that you need to put in the judgment value. The last thing I want to share the thoughts is Chinese students and their family members have very different views about education. I mean, the individual that we're trying to recruit and the paying individuals that's supporting them to be recruited, it has very different views about that. The family members have a social responsibility to give their children a high-ranked education. Okay, not necessarily equivalent to a high standards or high grade of education. Students, on the other hand, have to pass through certificates, tests, contests to prove that they are getting that, to make sure that the family or the supporters of their education gets what you say, the bad word is, gets what their money's worth. This shows on everything, even on in China, even on music instrument learning, drawings, calligraphy, computer programming, and etc. Students are overwhelmed and very much lost. Okay, so selecting the education path was never their opinion that counts. So you need to take a look at, I think Dr. Jia also mentioned that most of the concern that they have is not the students' concern. Most of the concerns that her survey shows is the parents' concern. Okay, even by the time they're 18 years old, they hardly can make a lot of decisions. Actually, a lot of students that I talk to in China, they are avoiding to make that decisions. So our customers or marketing targets, to say, are really those standing behind or around, visibly or invisible, the students. They're around the students. So we need to move on our effort, not just trying to prove to the students, but also proving to all their surrounding factors that it is good for their financial well-being. So next, please. So some of my suggestions. Try not to adapt to their needs. We have a great service. I'm deeply believe in, I've visited Hawaii and I've seen and talked to many Hawaiian educators. I know you have a very good service that you're providing. But you need to, I think we need to come in a different way of approaching it. Students, the potential students can use this to achieve anything they want to. It's a great tool, especially when you can we can persuade them that you can achieve the financial well-being that you're looking for, may not be using the same methods and tools that the other people has followed. So this message needs to be broadcast through literature, social media, and the sort. And do not pressure the progress. I know Dr. Jia faced a lot of pressure, to see some immediate result. But Chinese people's knowledge of Hawaii, even in the first tier cities, are very limited, very, very limited. Not only we need to do this in China, but also we need to promote to every single Chinese visitors to Hawaii, so that they can bring the message back, so that they can be our bullhorn and to deliver the messages. This is very important. So we need to put our education image not only to the Chinese people directly in China, we also need to put that message out to all the people in Hawaii or visiting Hawaii right now. Second, we need to have a constant and consistent study group. We need to understand the needs and the views about Chinese people in education. This is not just a overall image. This is not just an education image we need to broadcast. We need to broadcast the overall Hawaiian image, not just governmental effort, but more of private sector type. I have a lot of people asking me about Hawaii, but most of them are focusing on Hawaii as a travel spot, not even as a great state. Okay, many people knows very little about Hawaii. That is a very big concern. The third one is, please think about using the existing population that you have. I'm very happy to hear Dr. Jia saying that we need to use the Chinese residents. We need to use the existing Chinese students. We need to talk with the Chinese alumni. We need to talk with actually every alumni that we can that can show the achievement that can show how they have done well with using the tool. And Dr. Jia is a very good example for that. So these are the things that we need to approach to have the best thing and the practicality of Hawaiian education. This is what the Chinese parents and students are looking for. Why do they want to get out of China for their education? The alumni performances is also very, very important. What they have done with the tools, or what have they done with the services. And the last one is, again, this throws right into Dr. Jia's plan. We need to have a very consistent and open communication channel. I'm not so much interested in books. I think a video, a conference, a alumni presentation in the open, not really going into each schools, some more Hawaiian image advertising, even with the travel groups. We need to mention about the education, the living conditions, to quench a lot of their knowledge thirst. They need to know more about Hawaii before they can look into an education path in Hawaii. That's all I have. Thank you.
Let me turn on my mic. Oh, thank you, Dr. Jia. Well, that's something different, and let me try to recap a little bit. You know, Dr. Jia elevated the subject of empirical discussion on education to scholastic studies. Well, that's something I was not prepared, and that's deep thinking. And he brought up something like, you know, whether we need to adapt our product to clients or we educate clients to adapt to our products. Well, he reminds me of somebody, Jack Ma, said, you know, if the bank does not change, we change the bank. Well, he was somewhat successful, and I hope that you know, Dr. Amos's idea will change our, at least shed light on our thinking and approach. You know, another subject he brought up is he shed light also on the Chinese ideology. You know, he talks about, you know, the dogmatic goals or ideals of the Chinese parents of financial well-being. And that's something we know, that's something, well, we know, and it's something very deep in layers of our, you know, priorities. And then, versus this subject is versus spiritual, like, you know, whether it's self-decision making, whether it's, you know, if you want in the States, if you want to realize your American dream, you need, you know, freedom and liberty and everything. But for China, they are pretty, for Chinese, they are pretty focused. Well, whether it's a wealth or success, it's a financial being anyways. And it seems to me that they do not make big significance, a big difference to Chinese. Well, if I go to study abroad, I need to reach that goal. Well, that's these ideas and thoughts leave us to think in the future time. And if you have questions, you can raise to them. And I think today we have very good group of panel, and each one give us further food for further thoughts. And thanks to all our speakers. And so it's now let's come to Q&A session. And I know that many of our audience know us, and probably you already had chances to talk to us before, but still you are very welcome to raise any questions, and they are here to answer them. And of course, after the Q&A session, and I have to relieve them from a long time of sitting, and I would still spend a few minutes updating you on what the DBED Beijing office has been doing and what changes that happened in China in education. So I don't see any questions from the Q&A box, and you are welcome to raise hand, and team 2 will let you in, and you can speak directly to either our consultant or other educator, our recruiters, or high school, middle school educator. Welcome, please. It seems no question. Well, seems that many people, because it's a very small, closed circle, and many of us know each other, and probably they just want to brush up their knowledge about the topics we have been talking about. So let me relieve our speakers. 那各位嘉宾老师，谢谢大家参加我们的这个视频会。希望我们之后呢会给大家发一个certificate of honor， 就是感谢大家花时间参加我们的会。大家可以 feel free， 已经1个半小时了。我还会跟我们的 members 在如果你们愿意听welcome， 如果你们有 other obligations， 你们可以 free to leave。
好，谢谢大家。Nice to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyways, for those audience who choose to stay, I have a few slides to share with you about what we've been doing and what new things happening in China. Let me share my screen. It's so slow. Yeah. Well, friends, I think most of you know me, and I just want to update you, the things that happened and what's important in the education field in China. And some new things is that, the Chinese government very often have new policies, and this new policy regarding high schools, secondary students going abroad. At least I think this policy will affect students from public schools, because they have a new directive recently released that they do not encourage schools at secondary or high schools to go abroad for summer or winter programs too often. Though the directive does not ban the students going abroad for short programs or summer or winter vacations, but I presume that it will have a lasting effect on the students from public schools. They are deprived, it's not a good word. They have less chances, say, to, especially the public schools, they do not, organize so much often groups to visit foreign schools or visit their campuses. So the students are really deprived of the opportunity to be exposed to a lot of universities and schools. And the second thing, it does not affect private schools, because as most of you know, that private schools, they fall out of the Chinese Gaokao system already. So majority of their graduates will go to foreign countries anyways. And I will come up to the figures in a few minutes. And the second thing I want to say is, of course, is online education. And if you remember, in 2017, I wrote a long report on Chinese education, and one of the main subjects is I said that Hawaii schools should seriously look at online education opportunities in China. I made a study, I made a research. Why online education is so important. Because of the vast territory, because of the disparities of resources. A lot of far out places, they do not have better education resources, and so online, especially language teaching, subjects taught in English are so precious, and this is a market we should look at. And now, these short forms are, I think they are from US or something like, the Chinese government now promote online education in following areas like real-time lectures and LOD, I forgot was it already. MOOC is like mass open online courses, and SPOC is a small private online class. And in IND, individual study, individual time management, and collective question and answer sessions. They are tried to be detailed and tell the students, also the educational providers, they should look into these areas. And these are the technologies, online classes they should look at. And the third area is that we still have a vast market for professional and non-diploma education, because a new directive from the central Chinese government saying that probably less high school graduates will be enrolled in universities, and probably half of the graduates will have to go to professional and non-diploma diploma programs in the future. And this is also important. It opens to market for adult education, professional education, and I think American, including Hawaii schools, may still have a huge opportunity, because when these high school graduates, they are 17, 18, and they suddenly go into the job market, or the other professional anyways world, they need they still need a training education, and this training education has to be provided by all kinds of institutions in the society. And of course, then we also see the trend for online education because of the money is dumping into this area. And now in China, we have 26 listed companies in Hong Kong Stock Market Exchange, and 18 companies in the US Stock Market Exchange, and over 70 of them on the Chinese stock market. Well, they amassed a huge amount of money, and they not only provide directly to languages, English, foreign language training, to courses, to arts, to language, to all kinds of interest groups, and then also invest in technologies. And then, I also, the second topic I want to talk about is updating you on what other countries are doing. In the US, as you know, probably over 100 universities and colleges announced that SAT and ACT scores is not compulsory when it comes to recruit, especially Chinese students. In Canada, the Canadian government promoted the summer job programs because of the academic, and a lot of students, they plan to go back to their country well, of course, the majority of students are Chinese, and they try to encourage them to stay in Canada. And the government platform tries to find them a job for them to to either in a burger shop or a gas station, so that they can stay and they can get some money to pay for their living, and while they still can have online courses. In Australia, then the fees are lowered, about 1/3 for their college education, and they also eased the visa application process and the fees and time. And in UK, they even go further, and they announced the new immigration policies to encourage students to stay. And they provide them with help with a visa and also job opportunities. And over 25 universities and colleges in UK, they accept the Gaokao results. That's a simple update that we get from the Beijing office. And again, everything goes online, and this is not new to you, but in the field of education, well, this is in Chinese, but you can still see the line and the bars and everything. The market is still growing, and especially the right chart is the number of people in China receiving online education. You can see the steep jump from 2019 to 2020. Currently the figure on the left hand is about 400,000 people in China receive some kind of online education. So this is a huge, and if we get 100%, 1,000%, no, 1,000%, thousands. What is the one out of 1,000 people, if we get education from Hawaii, that's still a considerable market. And then well, Shijiazhuang Foreign Language School is an international school, and I just give you some figures about the international schools. And there are now about 1,300 international schools in China. And I think the number is more because it does not include the figure of 2019 and 2020. 2020, we don't think there's any increase. Probably there are some decreases, but anyways, international schools, if you compare with the sizes, they are not as big as traditional Chinese private or public schools. Each school have about 300, 400 students, and the total number of students enrolled in international schools are about 500,000 students. And as I said, most of these graduates, they go to foreign countries. And, there are countries like UK, like Australia, Canada, they are the main competitors with the US. And then next figure is 170 schools, international schools, and they offer IB courses. And the chart is the revenue of international schools they get each year, and you can also see it's a steady and moderate growth. If we have a few very good research reports, and if any of you is interested in the reports about international schools, about online education, I'm more than happy to share with you. And probably if you don't read Chinese, I think we can do something to translate them into English. And the last thing I want to talk about is, whether it's the international school education programs, partner schools, and there are the ways and the tools you can, capitalize to reach our goal to get more students trickling to Hawaii. Well, anyways, all these are a business. You know, whether it's a private school, whether it's international schools, they are all profit seeking. And you know, if somebody is looking at profit, whether you like it or not, you know, actually, frankly speaking, from my point of view, that if we want to attract foreign students, it's a business. We want to make some money to not only to diversify our, you know, student source, but also we can benefit to our, you know, balance sheets, or, you know, fund our sources of educational fund. Well, I just give you a few examples. One is that one of the organizations we work with is called 101 Teacher Trainer. And actually this guy, this owner, made a speech in the last in the one before last, and this is one of the teachers they trained. Well, you can see the figure now. He has 700,000 followers. We do not know how much you know money he makes, but next picture here is Tuesday or Wednesday was the first broadcast she made, and this figure little 30. Sorry. Yeah. Well, for one class, the platform collected 300,000 Chinese yuan. That's about $70,000 or something. Well, I just give you an idea, you know, how big and how profitable it can be. And Hawaii education, well, all our audiences are mostly, you know, belong to an institution. I mean, well, there are teachers from institutions. For example, the second, she was a teacher in a school, and now she, you know, goes private, but she worked for a public school. And if you have a IP like such a teacher, and well, you can work with this individual to share, you know, the income. And we have, you know, people, we have resources to, you know, test this water, and then to try to, you know, to bring up a few well-known teachers from Hawaii, whether it's on a language course, or it's a science subject, or, you know, robots, you know, training and anything, you know, mathematics. And the third picture I want to talk about, I want to show you is a recent happening at a Hawaii school. Mary No, who is a fairly well new member to Study Hawaii, and they have a program, joint program with a Beijing school. And then this picture shows how, you know, this is a scene from a Chinese school's TV screen. And they also have technology to interact with Hawaii students. This Mary No school, their students, most of their students can speak some Chinese, or they can speak well, I do not know. But you know, Hawaii students, they have to speak Chinese, and Chinese students have to speak English. And of course, you know, if they do not understand each other, then there is a teacher there to explain, or to whether it's a discussion or whether it's a really curriculum, you know, course. Well, I mean, this is Beijing. Of course, you know, we maintained our relationship with educational bureaus of, you know, Beijing, of, you know, Shanghai, and a lot of other places. You know, educational bureaus, public schools, they need this kind of cooperation. And sometimes I thought, you know, what extra costs does this you know, model incur to Hawaii schools? Not much. I really do not think, you know, there is a lot of cost associated with this, you know, exchange programs. You know, you just have, you know, a video, and it's the probably it's something here. I have to say, you know, I don't see any restrictions from the federal government, from the state government to you know, to ban or discourage, you know, schools to do this kind of tests or, you know, programs. And well, if we look at it as a business, and we can talk about it, it's very easy for business. You talk about prices, you know, you talk about, you know, costs and benefits, right? I think that's all I want to share with you. And I think time is up. It's yeah, I still have some time. If you, what else? I remembered that we want to share with you. Well, anyways, Flora, do you have anything to remind me of? No more. Okay, Kim. We before the today's meeting started, we talked about the, you know, because all our audience are all friends.
Yep.
Do you?
What about
do you have
what about we share the video of Mary Law?
Yeah, why not? Yeah, this is a this video because I from my PPT is, you know, only pictures, and this is a video that the school, the Chinese school, sent us. I just want to share with you.
冬季就每天都很热，然后如果是冷的时候也没有太冷，也从来不会下雪。
Hey, thank you. Your Chinese is so wonderful. We can hear you very clearly. So we always have snow here.
Oh, well, that's a very really short video clip, but it gives you you know, idea that what's going on between these schools. And well, that's all. And I saw that you know, some of our audience left already, but thank you for those who stick out.
Oh, actually, Gordon, I think Joe has one question. So he asking you, what are the specific areas of professional and non-diploma study that you project will be in demand?
Yeah, well, we in the past, we actually, when Study Hawaii came to China, or we bring groups to Hawaii, we didn't include that part of, you know, the segment. Now, because of the change in the policy, that a lot of high school graduates have to, you know, go into this kind of professional and non-diploma training centers or schools, you can call it. Well, I think, you know, the language training is still there. And I don't think, you know, the trade wars or, you know, political bickering between China and the US will stop the trend that Chinese students, their passion to learn English. And actually, technology bring this kind of, you know, emotion or will to a new height because it's easier, and more teachers or more resources are thrown into this, and you know, it's a lifelong. And instead of you know, comparing with the traditional school education, these professional adults or non-diploma students, they have more willingness to learn than school students, because the school students it's a compulsory course and they have to learn. But from other sources of organizations, the students, they have the self-motivation to learn. So languages will be there, I'm sure. And then, with this kind of organizations, online training in a certain subject, I envision it has to be consistent. If you open a program with a for example, professional school, then you have to be, consistent for at least 1 semester, 2 semesters to test whether it's good for both sides. And as the speaker said, as already, China is very big. There are 10, 20 Chinas. And if we make a breakthrough to one city or one province, well that, words spread. And then we don't really have to do a lot of marketing and promotion. You don't have to travel. I know you don't like to travel to China, but if you haven't make it through, you don't have to really come to China very often. It's different from, recruiting students. You have to meet all clients. But if we have a cooperation with an institution, then you really don't have to come to China and talk to different people each time. If you like, we can do some groundwork. We can approach to some of those institutions which we are not too familiar either, frankly speaking. But we can look into that to see who wants, this kind of cooperation. Or if you have any ideas, we can throw at them and see what's their reactions. And that's my my 2 penny thoughts. I'm not in the trade, but I have strong belief that we can still exploit the online education opportunity. Thank you. I saw you. You never said it. Well, I mean, I do not, I'm sorry. I do not particularly say that you don't like. I know many of, frankly, I feel that many of you don't like to travel to China because of the weather, because of whether it's cold, whether it's hot, or whether it's too crowded. Anyways, do not take it personally. Well, Joe, thank you. You can talk to me, and if you don't have any questions, if you don't have anything wants to talk to me or discuss with me, before you go, well, if you are interested in the next time, it's on February the 9th. It's a Tuesday, and the next session is on specially arranged for Alibaba Group. 2 people from Alibaba USA. They are based in US, and one is from San Francisco, from Los Angeles. The other one is from the East, whether it's Washington or New York. Anyway, 2 of them will be our host speakers, and they will talk about how to conduct business, what services they have, and what price ranges they are looking at. They are offering to U.S. clients. I know that they also invest heavily in education, and they have a lot of listed companies. Actually, some of listed companies are backed by Alibaba. And if you also have an interest in them, you're welcome to register at the DBED website and join us. Thank you, and wish you have a very good. Wish you well during the COVID-19 thing, and wish everybody healthy and wealthy and safe. Thank you, and goodbye.